Good morning, everybody. We're all converging right now. So while we're doing that, we're gonna kind of go around and I'm going to introduce the panel we have today, which I'm really excited about. From Sensedia, we have two folks. We have Natalia Cruz, who's head of open finance at Sensedia. And hi, Natalia. How are you doing today?
Hello, Paul. I'm feeling great, and it's an honor to be here and talking to Turqueto and DW. I think it will be a very good discussion.
Well, we're glad to have you. We also have from Sensedia, Philippe Torqueto, who's head of solutions architecture at Sensedia as well. Torqueto, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good, Paul. Thank you. Very excited to the discussion with Natalia and DW.
Fantastic. Glad you're here. We also have a special guest from Localite, CEO and founder DW Farrell. DW, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure to be here, and I'm also looking forward to engaging around this important topic.
Excellent. So the topic at hand today is the three pillars of a strong API economy. And we're going to dive into those three there: efficiency, profitability, and compliance. DW, I'm going to put you on the spot. I want to, for those watching that don't know about Localite, tell us a little bit about Localite.
Sure, thank you. So we're a fintech company, a startup, and started during the pandemic. Went through the Long Beach Accelerator, which is fantastic. And we're also a public benefit corporation, which means we have a mission for economic inclusion. And we work with civic organizations, cities, counties, sometimes community banks, credit unions, to help their small businesses. On a technical front, we are serving businesses, small businesses, which I prefer to call independent businesses because they can grow beyond small, with zero cost payment processing and a built-in rewards program for their business that networks them with other businesses. We also serve consumers, or the customers of our businesses that use our platform, by solving a dilemma that they have. They're in love with these apps for major brands, major chains, and racking up rewards and spending them at their favorite chains is great, but small businesses don't typically offer them, and it doesn't make sense for the consumer to have 30 or 40 apps for each small business. So we're uniting independent businesses in one app for local shopping. And we also are strong advocates for economic inclusion across local marketplaces. These independent business owners, a large percentage of them are diverse owners, and it's a key component to our mission for economic inclusion.
Let's dive into the topic at hand, which of course is API strategies. So Natalia and Torqueto, I'm going to ask you, what should companies look for when choosing a partner to support their API strategy? And then DW, I'm gonna have you sort of fact check them and then ask you, is that really the case? So Torqueto, Natalia, give us a lowdown.
Sure, Paul. Thank you for the question. And I strongly believe that when choosing the right partner, it's important for the company to have beside them a person or a company that will understand what is the scenario that they have to work with. A partner that is experienced in that will explore the scenarios, the needs, and help the company to design a project or understand what are the possible business objectives, business goals that they can design, and design the proper API strategy to support all of that. And understand what are the tools that they have to use or they could use to design the best API strategy, having the best security components that they need for everything to work in compliance standards, and also how to monitor, how to follow the success of those kind of strategies. So I believe that this is one of the things that can bring success to the case, to the relationship, and also to a very well-designed API strategy as well. I don't know, Turkit, what do you think?
Well, it's a topic which we are very used to talk about, right? So the partner needs to see what is going on within the business and think a little bit outside the box, because when talking about APIs, it's like, okay, everything can be pluggable and everything can be possible in terms of embedding your business in everything else and explore journeys that you don't even imagine at the beginning. So, however, this is the point that we need to start a strategy to the extreme focus on the business in hand and what is the current goal, to accommodate the strategy within this goal, and then extrapolate a little bit on what APIs can do outside the box and outside this strict business plan. And this is, for me, the mix of how a successful partner can work with, right? So, okay, you have your business goal, you know it, you're passionate about it. We have DW here as an example of that. But when you put APIs and technology on top of it, you can be overwhelmed on the possibilities. So how to navigate of this overwhelm of possibilities within a solid API strategy, and how to keep the API solid enough, the strategy solid enough to support the business as the business grow.
DW, how'd they do?
Great. And there's a obviously not unbiased, but in my experience, there's the enterprise level clients, which I've worked with major brands in my previous career, that had very powerful technology, but it didn't talk well with others. Web 2.0 was about this connecting services, and APIs really drove that. But it mostly was from the enterprise level. And so from that viewpoint, it is, how do we get our legacy systems that are internal to interact with partners or with newcomers, or how do we open up a marketplace on top of our existing legacy model? From the startup standpoint, which that's been our journey, the question typically doesn't come to mind. Which partner should we choose for our API strategy? Because the assumption is it's not accessible. Either I'm going to go around as a startup founder and I'm going to look for a place that I can just sign up and play around with an API, or, wow, could we actually open up our own API? What's involved with that? And so the question isn't typically one that a lot of startup founders might ask themselves, is who should we partner with? Because it just doesn't seem like there are services that would provide the support at their level. So just democratizing that support is actually fairly amazing. If you come from a development background, best practices are very common. If you're coming more from a business standpoint, you're looking at the APIs through the lens of how is it going to decrease costs, open up a new market, these different things. And that's all strategy. Those are all strategy conversations. So I would say that the question itself begs a conversation about, how do more startup founders even reach out or have that question in the first place of, how do I find a partner who's already done this, who's already built this out, and we can get off the ground and running, flying, either offering an API or consuming one.
That's a great point. And one of the things we've talked about before, and you've talked about how a sound API strategy can level the playing field in terms of amplifying revenues for companies. What are some other roles that APIs can play here? And DW, you can take it all. You can take it, or Turkett, if you want to chime in. Either of you, or both of you. I hope you'll add some detail here.
So, as a startup, you're thinking, how can we achieve a growth strategy when we have a small amount of investment? and really maximize that. How can we get into a marketplace? How can we acquire a partner and work with them? On our end, we have partnerships with American Express, Visa, and MasterCard. It's all through APIs. They typically require PCI compliance. If we just set out on our own to become PCI compliant, including the staff and compliance overhead, costs of engineering, to do that ourselves, it's $250,000 effort just to get running. And then you have 6 figures a year minimum that you're putting toward just that. We're a startup. We've only raised $300K. Now we've made more revenue than that, but with that $300K, if we had put $250,000 toward a PCI compliant API, so we could partner with the likes of the card networks, it would be a non-starter. We'd have no money left to put towards staff or developing what is uniquely ours. And so to be able to get up and running is democratizing, not for us, but also who we're serving. We're providing a service that intends to level the playing field in payments for small businesses, and that has a democratizing effect. So to do something that is at once disruptive but also complementary to partners, you have to work that out, and APIs are the language of that partnership.
This is the point with API. So DW is talking about democratizing, and this is exactly the thing with API. So everything today and throughout partners to new customers, and depending on the channel that you're operating, everything will be an API or consumer side or producer side of it. And one of the pillars here is compliance, right? So compliance is not an easy thing. It's a very hard thing to accomplish. And again, to the conversation between choose the right partner. So is this partner aware of those things, right? So you need to be PCI compliant. So we're talking about open banking or payments or whatever the case. It's a heavy regulated market. You need to take care of those compliance issues. And your API strategy must be compliant as well, even to operate, right? So those are valid concerns. And again, technology today without APIs is unimaginable, right? So everything will be an API. So how you turn things profitable, because you know that you're going to expend a lot of money, effort, and time to make those APIs possible. After they are possible, okay, you can maximize your gains, but how you can maximize and minimize the time through it. So how you can gain efficient on a very solid API strategy to kick out of the door as soon as possible to start to be profitable, And again, things will grow in terms of complexity and grow very fast when you're thinking about APIs. So DW said itself, so he's partnering with Visa, payment institutions, credit unions, banks, their consumers itself. So it's an integration nightmare. So again, compliance and governance. So how to keep those things running during the time and increasing complexity. So those are the challenges in hand, not only to choose the partner, but to see if the partner have this experience on how to handle those things, because they're not easy or cheap.
Natalia, are you seeing or hearing anything else in the fintech space worth adding there?
Yes. When we talk about fintechs, besides the regulation, the compliance issues that we have, we are talking about a market that evolves really, really fast. So they already have the idea of technology that they should use to accelerate those business. They know that a partner could accelerate that, and they know that an API management structure could support everything that they want to. So DW said something that really hit me. That is, they normally the startup founder, the CEO, knows the questions that he wants to be answered. And I do believe that when you are designing that strategy, you are understanding how to solve the problems that you have. Those conversations might even be richer when you bring those partners to the table and you ask them, what are the experiences that you've had with this kind of topic, with this industry, that we could elaborate and understand if there is more for us to achieve, more results that we are not seeing here, that we could work with that strategy, with that API, that integration that we have with the payment provider or the or Visa or Master, anyway, the partners that DW shared with us, that could even allowing us to identify new revenue streams that we haven't thought about. So we do know that there is a problem we want to solve, but what if there is more opportunity to that? What if there is something that I'm not seeing here? So these discussions around a proper foundation of APIs, a strategy, a project, having the right questions, the expertise, it could help elaborate more opportunities to the business itself.
Thanks, Natalia. At this point, I'd like to do some group participation and give our panelists a minute to grab a gulp of water. And what we'd like you to do is rank the following 1 through 5, with first being the most important, 5 being the least important, to the success of your business's API strategy. And your choices are ensuring compliance and security, generating revenue, connecting with third-party partners, embedding modern tech into legacy infrastructure, enhancing customer experience, and speed of innovation to market. So right now, prioritize away. We'll give you a minute to add your thoughts and pull your answers together, and we'll show that poll in just a minute. In the meantime, what I'd like to do is, Torquato, I'd like to start with you. What can we learn from integrating new experiences, for example, embedded business into an API strategy?
APIs are foundational to almost everything technology today. And embedded business are one tool that we have to generate experiences. So the main message for me here is basically, so thinking about the API strategy itself, to think about how to embed and how to be embeddable, is to think about the business itself. So those API strategies is way more than just API strategies for me right now. They are the business strategies itself. It's a mix. So there's no way for me to separate what you're expecting from the business from what you expect from the API strategy itself and how embedded business is working today. So we're talking about a lot of embedded finance, embedded insurance, embedded payments, or whatever the case, to give our final user new experiences. So we have a lot of examples like travel industry. I want to travel. I don't want to go to a website to purchase the ticket and then to purchase the hotel and then to purchase the insurance. I want a single experience. I want to travel. The same goes to the car retailer. I want to buy a car. I don't want to bother to go somewhere else to purchase the insurance or to grab a loan or whatever the case. So this is the point that embedded business today is the goal from different areas. And this can generate different sort of partnerships from unimaginable areas. So we have a very interesting example that we have a payment institution in Brazil that they have a smart POS, right? And the smart POS is embeddable. So they open up their smart POS to be integrated by, right? So if you're a restaurant owner, you can integrate your restaurant systems to this POS and get your retailers or your waitress is going to attend the customer with the POS in hand. Although they have some business case in mind and they open up for it. But here's the thing. Now we have this smart POS inside a church to collect donations. This is for sure another thing that nobody thought about, designing this smart POS. And now you can do church donations using a smart POS. So this is the world of possibility of the embedded business powered by solid API strategies behind the scenes. So it's flexible, it's easy to use, and to DW point at the beginning, this is the way that we do business today. We're providing new experiences to turn things that we only see on big retailers or or the big folks in the market. We want to bring them to the entire market, right? This is the point for me.
EW, I'd love to know sort of Localite's approach to new experiences and what you've seen.
Yeah, and Torquedo brought up embedded models, and on our end, we're a small app that like a tree falling in a forest, nobody's around, would anybody hear it, right? But what if you could tap into the root system of the forest? And that's really what the API economy represents for us, tapping into that root system, becoming part of the forest, and the circulation that makes it thrive, right? And so the flip side of that is embedded applications of APIs. This is all technical speak for, put our company in your business model, or as a white label, we're going to power your business model. For us, who we serve, that is, I'll give an example of credit unions where they have their app, they have their members, those small businesses, and also consumers who bank at these establishments. And going to your banking app makes sense when you're actually wanting to check your balance and these kind of things. But are you going to go to your banking app to pay for your veterinarian visit, and are you going to go to your banking app to select a gift for your niece? These are things where it makes more sense to flip it around and actually embed the banking in other apps in other marketplaces. In our context, that means we want to showcase the banks we work with within our app. That's an embedded strategy. We want to have Localite baked into credit union accounts, Zelle for shopping local. The way to do that is through APIs, and also it's typically the assumption is that it's very complex. There's a lot that can really hinder that conversation when trying to talk about partnerships. And the gap between complexity and simplicity is design, and design in service of humans. Specifically, how do we design great experiences, take that complexity, and through APIs, we can really focus on the experience of who we're serving so that the technology hopefully melts away. So even though it's, application programming interface is what API stands for, even though it is specifically about technology, it really represents the opportunity for design to solve the complexity, make it accessible, make it simple, and honestly work toward equity in that process. And that allows for all sorts of ways for your model to be in our business or our business to be in your model in working out partnerships and tapping into marketplaces like that forest example.
Right now, I believe I'm going to share the results from the last poll question where people ranked what's important. You guys have any reactions, any surprises? Does anything pop out to you? It looks like the one that's most important, sort of generates the most interest is
Generate revenue, I think.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
that makes
yeah,
sense.
so that make perfectly sense because, like, again, what is the end goal, right? So API is a technology, right? And to add on top of this complexity, API is a general thing. So GraphQL APIs, REST APIs, gRPC, event-driven architectures, all those ladders and those complicated scenarios that we need to simplify and we need to accommodate under the strategy and accommodate it with the business strategy. The end goal is always to generate revenue, and there's no surprises there. And we have a tie between insure compliance, right? And speed of innovation. So they're similar because compliance and security for those different sort of integrations are becoming a very common problem, and it will be worse because APIs now are the most or one of the most attacked surfaces under the companies right now in the enterprise world. And they will grow because everything is becoming under the API. So how to accommodate this strategy under compliance and security as well, and to accommodate all those different sort of APIs to solve different issues and different business outcomes, they will require different security perspectives, authentication, authorization, encryption, etc., etc. And now we put AI on top of everything. So this is becoming the most the bigger headache for system administrators and security folks. And we have specialized companies and specialized outcomes to work only with security and compliance. So again, to the partner discussion, to everything else, revenue versus security and compliance, this needs to be very well balanced. And normally when they are together in the same discussions, some fights DW can add to this conversation as well, Natalia as well, because of the open banking and everything. But when those folks enter in the same room, we have some very good conversations going.
I would like to jump in on this compliance part and bring how APIs can be like a differential for everything, and the fact that you can automate security processes and also create policies to guarantee that those security standards will be followed. So we see that a lot in an open banking strategy, in an open finance, embedded finance, that is a very regulated market. Having APIs that will run in an automatically way will bring you peace that this standard, the security standard, will be followed, will be executed, and at least you will be sure that this compliance requirement will be met.
I think this is a good place to highlight another poll question for everybody, which is, what's your biggest challenge to adopting an API strategy? Pick one. Connecting legacy data to new tech, speed to market, too slow to develop, connecting with third-party partners, ensuring compliance and security, justifying spend to develop and market versus revenue generation, and then finding the best ways to support your clients or your customers. So please just take a minute to plug in your answers, and we'll talk about that in just a second. While you're doing that, I feel like, and Natalia or DW, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the legacy issue is probably one of the biggest ones in the fintech space. I guess you're not seeing that, but some of the people you work with probably do.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like I said, my previous career, I worked with enterprises, and there's a recent statistic of about 60% of organizations face issues or dealing with issues with legacy systems. Like literally, how do we get our data out? And or smaller matters such as the preference for a RESTful API with JSON versus a legacy API with XML. Like that's a smaller matter, that's just a matter of preference. But just getting the data flowing with partners for institutions that had built a platform in a way that was never intended to be accessible outside of a server room, right? And so now we're on the cloud, and now we have partners, and so the ways to go about security have also dramatically changed. Where security vulnerabilities manifest because it was a developer who exposed a private key for an API within the banking app, and that was an exploit. And this has happened many times. And there's around 40% of companies last year, I understand, had exposed API vulnerabilities, and it was not technical by nature. It was human error. So understanding from the enterprise level that you also have to layer and surround the implementation with, I'll call it wise counsel, but a strategy and implementation guidance that you are not just following best practices, but as Natalia said, that's automatic. I see it similar to the concept of a smart contract popularized by blockchain, but smart contracts also exist and have existed, such as you have a bill pay set up with your bank. That's a smart contract. And so having it execute because there's something that triggers it or conditions are met, that is dependable. Compliance can rely on that, but it also can expose a vulnerability if exploited. And so that's where the human component of implementing a solid API design and ensuring that there's checks and balances, and that each service that's being offered through API can be turned on or turned off discreetly, as opposed to something that is enmeshed and will take your whole system down because you had an issue with one small piece of it, right? The idea of microservices may not be for every smaller business, but certainly at the enterprise level, there's a strong shift to microservices, and that's powered by APIs.
As predicted, the legacy issue was the number one answer. So no surprises there, I don't think, unless you guys have any reactions otherwise.
No, it's not. Well, legacy systems, they are there. They will continue there for a while. So the fact is, the strategy itself don't need to stop just because of legacy. So legacy systems bring the company the status that the company have today. Right? It's not necessarily a bad thing, but we need to consider other things like DW explored security perspective. So what is the bad thing that the legacy system is bringing to you today that you need to tackle in the short term? Because, well, and the second one is how I will expend money versus the revenue that I'm going to bring. So those heavy transformations, okay, I have legacy, I'm going to kind of demonize legacy systems. I need to break this entire legacy system down to have a strategy. It's not exactly like this. So what is the latent problem in the short term? Since you highlighted, you have many different strategies to tackle this problem. It's not necessarily a full transformation of a huge legacy system that is serving the company for centuries. Slow down and think on what is the real problem in the short term in hand that an API strategy can help you with. So sometimes a modern layer on top of it can solve a bunch of problems, get your data out for you to use. And okay, this can generate problems in the future. Yes, but you don't have this problem right now. The latent problem is, okay, I have a specific security issue that I need to overcome. Okay, overcome this specific security issue. And again, APIs can help with that. And this is the scenario that we started this digital transformations perspective with a big bang approach. Everything needs to be microservices. So right now the market's like, okay, we have microservices, we have functions as a service, we have a bunch of things. So slow down, think about the short-term problem, see the legacy system as a system as, okay, it's brought the company right now in the way that the company is today. It's profitable. That's okay. And then grow the strategy as you can see in the short term, right? So this is to overcome the legacy problem. And I see sometimes that, oh, I have legacy systems. Okay, I need to break down to microservices or you're going to die. It is not like this.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in and focusing, just picking one thing that could go through that transformation. That's also from a development standpoint. You want to isolate concerns, and now you have something that can be solved. Like, for example, a bank working with a fintech like ours. We actually see one of our roles is looking at the infrastructure they have, the complexity they have to navigate to work with us, and actually trying to solve it for them, so that honestly we can go to a handshake as quick as possible. So it's often pushed over to the company that wants to work with the enterprise. But for this idea of focusing on something that's small and achievable, and going through that transformation, maybe it's going toward microservices structure. Well, okay, here's one service that's exposed. In our case, we decided that a monolithic structure actually makes a lot more sense because we have a really integral system, and so we're not going that pathway. But where an enterprise can test something out, do that transformation just on one use case, and then see the results. Was it worth it? Is it now lowering the staff costs, allowing for the staff to be more productive in other areas because something is automated? And now you have the business case or the internal case to go to 2 or to 4 and grow. So it isn't an all or none scenario from the enterprise level.
And to add on top of this, so normally when you isolate, here's the thing, how to isolate, right? And again, the answer almost be APIs is the answer. So you have this integration layer, you know who is coming through and where is coming through. And imagine that now we have this brand new integration layer that bring more business, and you have some hiccups in terms of scalability. This brings observability to the table as well. So you are able to see what is the piece that brings those hiccups and those slowness in the infrastructure. Focus there. It's data driven. It's not like you're going to go full scale microservice. No, you need to focus. For example, my payment scenario is slowing me down. Okay, change the payment scenario architecture for you to achieve scalability. You don't need to big bang it out, but just to tend to turn things more tangible in how doing it. And again, APIs are basically the answer.
That flows nicely into our next topic, which is cross-border payments. And DW, what I'd like to talk to you about to start is, why is enabling cross-border real-time payments in multiple currencies still an issue? This feels like a 20th century problem.
Yeah. Well, just a little context. And back in around 2010, I worked with Tala on the first version, Tala.co, on the first version of their platform for microloans to underinvested entrepreneurs in third world countries from a U.S. perspective. The founder Shivani had this vision for really disrupting the traditional way that microloans were being serviced, and it worked. There's been at least $4 billion in microloans that have been served, and the reality is that each of the 4 countries where Tala now exists, Kenya, Philippines, Mexico, and India, they're completely different ecosystems, different bank partners, different ways of money being handled. They're very disjointed. Then one of our advisors is the CTO at AirTM, which has an approach to basically having an offshore savings account. So if you're in a country say Venezuela, where your currency may not be stable and you want to move your assets into an account in another country, such as the US, AirTM facilitates that. So these are really great, innovative models, but the legacy of the cross-border payments is really driven by the arbitrage. In other words, the money in the middle that can be made by the legacy players. And without naming them, it's a pretty hefty surcharge for payments, but these are the companies that built the plumbing for cross-border payments. So a lot of that is changing as more countries embrace at least some form of real-time payments. And then there's, in the US, for example, there's the clearinghouse, which has RTP, real-time payments, which we actually use. And then FedNow, which launched in July, offered by the Federal Reserve. This is what the US is doing that Brazil and other countries have already embraced, which is the certainty and the expediency of digital transfers. So that technology is come of age and is international now. Finally, with the US getting to a point where at least payouts can be done instantly and with certainty. So it's a $156 trillion industry, cross-border payments. We're not directly involved from localized standpoint, but we've had folks from other countries reach out and say, "Hey, what about bringing your model to our country?" So it's really ripe for disruption, and at the core of the APIs that are available for real-time payments and the parallels for money movement across the globe are at this point of maturity where new use cases that have never been possible before are opening up. So, SaaS founders and startup founders that want to go for really disrupting this arbitrage, this money in the middle, that there's a piece of the pie there for bringing some value to new value and opportunity to a whole new group of customers for cross-border payments.
I love sort of the takeaway that I love that you're talking about is the right API strategy with regards to cross-border really enables companies to expand internationally, which that's wonderful.
Just to bring an attention on, technically speaking, how difficult it is to establish in one country instant payment model, a digital instant payment model. Now extrapolate to different countries. So the complexity under the hood to achieve that, to translate different currencies, different banking systems, different regulations. So this is unimaginable, I think, 5 years ago. And we are moving towards a market disruption in exchanging money between different countries in a cell phone instantly. And it becomes a reality 5 years later. So here is one classic example how APIs can turn things very fast and disruptive if they are being made in a constant and compliant way. So we're talking about payments, right? So there's all sorts of frauds and everything else. So how to do it in a compliance way, in the way that I need to exchange money between different countries. So this is unimaginable and fantastic over the API and technical standpoint, and how much human interaction you need to get everybody aligned at the same table to make those things happen. So this is my take under those cross-border payments problem.
To all of you, whether we've talked about it or not, what are some of the best ways to enhance partner ecosystems with API strategies?
I don't see partner ecosystems today without an API strategy. If you're doing it, I think you are losing a potential to extend the business and embed the business in the ways that you're not imagined. So for me, partner ecosystem and APIs today are synonyms, so there's no way to separate things up. And again, with back in the POS, the POS example, so I'm pretty sure that those business folks are not thinking about it to get church donations over smart POS inside a church. So those are the things that partner ecosystems with a very solid API strategy and well-defined API strategy can do for a business. So you can disrupt a business just by using API. So I see banks in Brazil open up branches and closing the branches because they figure out that bank as a service alongside with a startup, it's way cheaper way to expand their business, and they're closing all the branches and stick with the bank as a service strategy. So another example.
I keep thinking about the possibilities that Localite, for example, has when talking about offering their fintech services to a big bank, for example. So a big bank has its portfolio, its product portfolio, and might have a legacy system that it's really hard to move fast and have new products in their shelf. So imagine if they use Localite services or companies that are available in the marketplace of Localite to accelerate and create new products, new services. Their portfolio will increase in a matter of weeks or even days. So this is all enabled by APIs. We do have another example that I really love. That is a company we work with here in Brazil that it's called Potencial. They are an insurance company, and they were really struggling with organizing their API catalog, their API strategy to make so they could be used by different partners, different brokers, and also enabling the business to scale. So they used the developer portal strategy to organize their API catalog to make the API documentation available, and also to accelerate the usage of those APIs. Using a partner portal that we like to call, provided them or enabled them to accelerate the partner onboarding from 2 weeks to 2 days. So having a catalog, a very well-designed API strategy, it can enable the onboarding of new partners, accelerate the onboarding of new partners, and make it available for new partnerships to happen and accelerate business strategy.
Yeah, I'll add to that there's also, from an enterprise standpoint, every enterprise should have a developer portal, just hands down. So what's the difference between a regional bank and Cross River or Sunshine Banks? They have developer portals. They have a model that fintechs can become offer banking services or something that integrates and can scale, and it's because of their developer portal. From the startup standpoint, by making a developer portal available or exposing our APIs, going the other way and saying, here's our unique model. Does it add value or revenue to your model? That also means that API marketplaces can then bring that in, make it available. And this is really a layer on top, which is that I'll give an example of ASA. ASA Financial has a turnkey solution for banks to work with fintechs, legacy credit unions, technology that has been around and more recently modernized, at least to make available apps for their bank members. But nonetheless, they have a banking core and a lot of layers that are very specific to them. And ASA Technologies is providing a marketplace where fintechs and the banking institutions can come together around a common structure for their API. So more of these API marketplaces are really adding value, and also they're businesses in their own right.
we've come to the point of our discussion where I like to call a shameless plug parting shot. So, DW, I'm going to let you start first. If people want to know more about what Localite's doing, or if there's something you're really excited about, tell us.
Yeah, so we are in city by city mode. We have a approach where we're offering our platform for free to small businesses if we have a local partner, and that's an economic development partner. In some cases, like the city of Long Beach, we've partnered with the city itself and their nonprofit, the Long Beach Center for Economic Inclusion. We have a similar type of relationship with a couple other counties and cities where we are growing at a very intentional, dense level. We absolutely are looking to expand that to 10 cities over the next year. And then through our fintech partners and our approach, we will be able to take it national, but we really want to make sure that we're serving small businesses and have a lot of support around the impact that we have in our mission. And so that's where we're at. And I'm actually available if anybody wants to email me at dw@localight.com. Happy to also give some feedback on these API questions as well.
Thanks, DW. Natalia, is there anything we didn't talk about that you'd like to highlight?
We didn't talk about the next steps that we are looking forward to, the partnership that Localite and Sensedia will bring. So we are very excited about everything that we are building. We will share with you guys as soon as we have news around this as well. So I would love to be in touch with DW, Torquedo, and everyone in the audience. I will also welcome you guys to email me if there is anything you would like to ask about Sensedia. It's natalia.cruz@sensedia.com.
Thanks, Natalia. Torquedo, any parting shots?
A pleasure to talk about everything with DW and Natalia. I'm also looking forward to see the next chapters and the next challenges that we're going to see with Localite. And to say that we here at Sensedia, we help all those customers that have from ginormic payment institutions to small startup businesses into this endless API journey. So, and I'm eager to talk to anybody that wants to chat about technical side of the APIs.
Great. And for more information on anything Sensedia is offering, please go to www.sensedia.com. DW, Torquedo, Natalia, thank you so much for your insight today, and thanks to you for watching and sitting in our session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.